the insurance company. You know, and you get these multiple personalities that you call insurance companies. That's more insurance building. That's the big money right there.
Il y a encore quelque chose qui me chiffonne. Si le traitement psychiatrique est si long, si cher et inefficace.
Je sais. Qui serait disposé à dépenser des sommes énormes pour des traitements psychiatriques qui durent des années, souvent toute une vie, et donnent des résultats si minables?
Exactement. Qui paie pour tout ça?
Essentiellement les caisses d'assurance gouvernementales et privées.
Les assurances.
D'ailleurs, les groupes de pression psychopharma excellent à faire passer des lois pour forcer les assurances à couvrir les soins de santé mentale de la même façon que les soins médicaux réguliers.
C'est l'égalité de la santé mentale, n'est-ce pas?
Exactement. Mais sur le plan économique, c'est une catastrophe.
So there's nobody who walks into a psychiatrist's office that isn't going to go out with a label. He's got 374 choices or so based on the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual list of symptoms. So he's got to fit you into one of those categories in order to get paid.
The DSM really should be called, how to bill the insurance companies, how to get money from the insurance companies. It's a list of codes, and there's a number for everything, and that number goes on an insurance form, and then you get payment for it.
The DSM is completely built into the system now because you can't get reimbursed by an insurance company unless there's a DSM diagnosis.
You know, a kid wets the bed, you can bill on that. They're going to have one called a skin picking disorder. You pick your skin, you can diagnose and bill on that. You know, you can always find a diagnosis and you'll always be able to bill.
A psychiatrist or a psychologist can go through their book now and find a diagnosis code for just about anything. Everybody would fall into something that they could put a diagnosis on and fraud insurance companies.
Quelle arnaque!
Absolument. Chaque année, l'industrie psychiatrique se sert du DSM pour amasser 100 milliards de dollars des assurances privées ou gouvernementales américaines. Et cela dans un seul pays.
Je commence à me rendre compte à quel point le DSM a élevé le coût total des traitements médicaux.
Je sais. En moyenne, la facture d'un psychiatre à l'assurance est 2 fois plus élevée que celle d'un traitement médical normal.
Et ça fait que j'ai plus à payer pour mon assurance.
Oui, et ça gaspille l'argent de la sécurité sociale. Au Texas, la Caisse d'assurance maladie pour la santé mentale a presque été mise en faillite par une classe de psychotropes très coûteux, normalement prescrits pour le trouble bipolaire.
Mince, ça fait beaucoup de drogue.
C'est sûr. Et en plus, les diagnostics du DSM sont tellement arbitraires que le problème des fraudes aux assurances est énorme et coûte très cher. Des hôpitaux psychiatriques privés se faisaient passer pour des cliniques pour perdre du poids ou arrêter de fumer afin de faire entrer les gens à l'hôpital.
Come with me.
Ils payaient des recruteurs jusqu'à 3 000 $ pour chaque nouveau patient couvert par une assurance gouvernementale.
How many more you got coming? Bunch.
Et ils détenaient les patients aussi longtemps que possible, jusqu'à ce que l'assurance cesse de couvrir.
Et tout ça pour l'argent de l'assurance.
En effet. Et une fois que les patients sont inscrits, n'importe quel diagnostic du DSM peut justifier un traitement. Regarde cette caméra cachée où quelqu'un se fait passer pour un employé d'un hôpital psychiatrique.
I'll say patient display. That's how my opening is always a classic. Patient display. He's sort of, what do you think? You think he's,
I thought, I've interacted with him a lot, and I thought he's always appropriate. He's always...
But under behavior, what's some good words in here? He's not negative. He's sort of intrusive a little bit.
He's not really.
He doesn't push limits anymore.
He didn't really act intrusive.
He acts sort of anxious. Focus on the negative.
And why should we focus on negative?
Because that's how they get paid. I mean, this is what they told me. I mean, you write what you want to write. I know I got to write for you. So I know what I have to write. You know what I mean? So that's why
Like, why do you have to write it?
So this place can get paid.
Oh, okay.
It's a business thing. It's not like I'm lying, but I always pull the negative out. Like,
you're supposed to. They tell you to.
What? The negative?
Pull the negative out.
You pull it out of them.
Ça ne peut pas être honnête.
Ça ne l'est pas. Et ce n'est qu'une partie de la fraude. Il a été découvert que les factures pour soins psychiatriques étaient en fait pour faire écouter de la musique, regarder la télé ou jouer au loto, pour un service de réveil téléphonique, des tickets de théâtre ou des voyages outre-mer, ou pour soi-disant traiter des gens alors qu'ils étaient en prison, dans le coma ou même morts.
Non.
Certains psychiatres avaient des rapports sexuels avec leurs patients et facturaient cela en tant que thérapie.
C'est répugnant.
Comme l'a dit un directeur des inspections d'assurance, l'ampleur de la fraude n'est limitée que par l'imagination.
J'avais aucune idée.
Peu de gens en sont conscients. La fraude dans le domaine de la santé mentale coûte 5 milliards de dollars par an aux assureurs et aux contribuables, rien qu'aux USA.
On devrait arrêter ces criminels et jeter la clé.
It's the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, the third edition.
Est-ce que je t'ai dit que la psychiatrie a aussi réussi, grâce au DSM, à s'infiltrer dans notre système judiciaire?
La justice aussi?
Ouais.
The clinical diagnosis of a DSM-4 mental disorder is not sufficient to establish the existence for legal purposes of a mental disorder. That's a very interesting point. Basically, what the authors are saying here is that the material in the DSM has no utility in the courtroom in deciding guilt or innocence. It should not be used in courtrooms as part of the legal process.
Attends. Le DSM dit qu'on ne peut pas l'utiliser dans un tribunal pour établir l'existence d'un trouble mental?
Exactement. Mais on s'en sert tout le temps.
Oui, comme pour plaider l'irresponsabilité.
Et aussi le droit de garde, détention civile, tribunal des successions.
J'ai entendu parler de psychiatres s'affrontant au tribunal, chacun utilisant le DSM pour soutenir sa partie et chacun étant accepté en tant qu'expert.
As far as I could see, for psychosis or delusions. Because he's suffering from narcissistic personality disorder and a delusional disorder.
C'est une contradiction totale. Ça n'a pas toujours été comme ça.
In the beginning of the 20th century, a psychiatrist in a courtroom would be laughed out of the courtroom by and large. Today, it's commonly accepted testimony as long as it's in accord with the DSM.
The danger in using the DSM in a court setting is that you're using a vocabulary that the judge or the jury doesn't fully understand. They are, by concocting these psychobabble words, it makes it seem like there's something there that may not be there.
The courts have allowed all this junk science to come into the courts, and they've made case law on it. And once the case law is made, we're stuck with it until it gets overridden.
They come in with tests, they come in with their diagnostic categories from the DSM, and they say, we've done tests, we've determined that this person has this numbered malady, and therefore they do. And there's almost no way to pry a judge out of accepting that.
When a psychiatrist makes a diagnosis in court, is that the person is sent to a mental institution, deprived of liberty, and we have no idea whether he's guilty or not.
Au nom des diagnostics du DSM, une personne est internée sans consentement dans une institution psychiatrique toutes les 40 secondes.
C'est tellement injuste.
Et n'importe qui, n'importe quand, peut tout perdre à cause de l'opinion d'un psychiatre. Écoute ça.
I went to a stop smoking course at Vanderbilt. And the doctor, the lady that ran the program said that she goes, we need to get you on a stop smoking medication. So she prescribed me Zyban. Well, after the fact, I find out that Zyban is nothing but this really powerful antidepressant called Wellbutrin. Yeah, I stopped smoking, but I had no idea the hell. I mean, the hell. The hell's gates were being opened when I started taking Zyban. I had been clean and sober for 18 years. Just never considered that. But something about that, I started experiencing the craving to drink again, and my life fell apart. Divorce, relapse. So then A sibling of mine got wind of my relapse, wanted to gain control of my pocketbook and my life, and found the dirtiest lawyer in town who knew, one of the dirty psychiatrists, and bought and paid for an evaluation, had a hearing in a court before I was ever served notice. And the next thing I know, every right that a human being can possibly have was taken from me. And you have less rights as a conserved person than you do as a criminal. I mean, you are stripped of every right. You can't enter into a contract. You cannot marry. You cannot sue. You cannot even fight the legal system that has involuntarily put you in this. And it was all based on the psychiatrist's diagnosis, who never evaluated me.
C'est incroyable. Il voulait simplement arrêter de fumer, mais il a reçu le diagnostic d'un psychiatre et a été privé de tous ses droits.
Et son argent a disparu, sans parler de l'internement dans un hôpital psychiatrique. Mais si tu crois que ce que les psychiatres font à l'individu dans les tribunaux est mal, attends de voir ce qu'ils font aux familles.
Children are taken away from parents every day in these juvenile courts because a person with a PhD or an MD after their name comes in and says, I've shown ink blots to a person, and they may be a risk to a child. Just in my little state of Massachusetts here, there are 11,000 children in captivity taken away from families at any one moment. And almost all of those children are being drugged. And our own commissioner of children and families testified under oath that they drug 88% of the children that they take out of the families.
88%, c'est presque tous.
Et c'est juste la surface du problème. Dans le monde entier, les psychiatres se servent des tribunaux de diverses manières pour priver les gens de leurs droits et pour détruire les familles. Regarde.
Psychiatry has affected my family through the family law court rulings. The family law court has a court-appointed child psychiatrist who, it appears, determines the future of the child.
It's just like a business in the court system that they forced you to undergo all of these psychological evaluations, and you have to pay thousands of dollars, but at the end of the day, it has been supported by no evidence, nothing.
They'd said to me, Deb, you have a choice. Either you bring your son to get medicated, or we'll take your child away from you and put him in a home that they'll medicate your child. And then good luck. Basically, they were saying, good luck, Deb, to try and get your son back, but you'll get him back medicated anyways.
And they put her in hospital, and that's when the psychotropic drugging started with Becky. And at that stage, I had no say over it.
They refused to let her go. They would not let my daughter go unless she take medication.
This was again a recommendation from the psychiatrist that once my son was radically ripped from his home and literally kidnapped and put in a new home with a perpetrator of domestic violence and of sexual assault, and is where he now lives, this psychiatrist said that he was never to have any counselling and never to see anybody.
To have your family just disrupted like that, ripped out from under you, really, your whole life, just gone like that. And then you have to fight every day to get him back. It was very devastating.
In some ways, it's worse than a death because it's unresolved, and you know what the truth is. And you feel like giving up and not fighting back for that custody of that child, but you can't. Yeah, there's just no justice.
C'est terrible. Ils détruisent les familles avec les diagnostics arbitraires qui abondent dans les tribunaux.
Exactement.
So it's unfortunate that the courts have bought into the DSM. It's unfortunate that the whole psychiatric profession is wedded to the DSM. It's unfortunate that the psychiatric profession is in bed with the drug industry, and it's unfortunate that drugs that don't work are the common prescribed drugs for all manner of conditions in children and in adults. It's the wrong way to go.